Yes. Yes, yes, yes. You know what's up. You know what's up. Yeah, it's us. Please, please sit down. You're embarrassing me. Wow, that was quiet. Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Counterparts and tonight's show. It's going to be pretty cool. We're excited about it. We're going to talk about old music and new music and some really an interesting article that we're going to actually base this conversation off. But first, I'd like to introduce to you this gentleman, Mr. George Batista.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
George. Thank you
Thank you.
very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, George, as you know, needs no introduction, basically, if he's entering a Turkish bath. um, but here I do introduce him. So we had a conversation about music, which George and I are always talking about music, obviously, and having played in a band together, and we recorded albums together, and we played a bunch of shows together, and all that stuff. We kind of got an appreciation for the industry from that side of it, right? And now being on the other side where we're consuming music and kind of doing this part of it as well, it's been very interesting to see how music is has changed and how we consume music, right? Because in our lifetime, George, we've gone from records, cassettes, or actually, I should say records, eight tracks,
Track. Yeah.
cassettes, CDs, then digital, back to records, which
Right.
records right now are actually a bigger seller than anything else. Um, and of course, we're all the other platforms like Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff. So the music industry has been sort of decimated to a certain degree, especially musicians. And tonight we're going to be talking about an article um, that was written, and I have the article here, which I'm going to reference the article. It was written by a guy named Ted. I think it's pronounced Goya, or Gioa. I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
Gioia. So
I
G.
know.
It could be
Goya. And sorry, Ted,
Goy.
if we were
Yeah, sorry,
butchering
Ted.
your name.
Sorry about that. Appreciate it. But anyway, Ted, great writer. This is for the Atlantic. He wrote this great article, which is we kind of named our show almost the same as his article, which is old music killing new music. Um, and we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how that's happening and some of the points that he actually made, and then we're gonna interject some of our points and some of our experiences in the industry. And if anybody out there has any questions or wants to interject any of their viewpoints on that, we'd be more than happy to hear you as well. So, George, what do you think about this so far, this conversation
I think
that
it's
we're
going to
going
be
to
a
have?
good conversation. I think we're going to have a lot of opinions on it because it's not only we've been in the industry for a long time, but you see the trends and the trends affect us to this day. How we listen to music, how we consume music, how our kids are listening to music, and all this. So, and what's the future of music, which is going to be which is very interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah. The future of music seems, I mean, per this article, it's very interesting what's happening. And the first thing I'll say is the first portion of the article starts with Ted writing. He says, old songs now represent 70% of the US music market. Even worse, the new music market is actually shrinking. So, old songs now represent 70% of the US music market, according to the latest numbers from the MRC data and musical analytics firm. Those who make a living from new music, especially that endangered species known as the working musician, should look at these figures with fear and trembling. But the news gets worse. Thanks, Ted. It says the new music market is actually shrinking. All the growth in the market is coming from old songs. So Let's talk a little bit about that because George and I have been a fan of. I mean, we are a huge fan of music. I mean, that was like what we did since we were kids. George and I grew up together. We played our first band ever we were ever in was George and I were in. Our last band that we were ever in was together. So we've gone through a lot, and we love music, And one of the things that we always would talk about, we were listening to bands that were old bands, even when we were kids, right?
Right,
I mean, we were
right.
listening to Led Zeppelin.
Mhm,
Led
mhm.
Zeppelin. By the time you and I started listening to Led Zeppelin in the late late 80s, early 90s, they were already established
Yes,
legendary band. You know what I
right,
mean?
exactly.
Um, and who else were we listening to? I mean, of course, Rush,
Rush.
a big band from the 70s. And here we are in the 90s listening to this band, Rush. Now, it's not to say that we didn't like some of the current stuff that was happening.
Mhm.
I think we came up at a time when grunge music was the thing. Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and well, Nirvana, of course, that changed the world
Yeah,
in like 91. That was a major thing. But one of the things that I remember back then was that the stuff that we were listening to that was from a different era was the stuff we loved the most.
right,
And that had to do
exactly.
with the most singer songwriters. It had to do with obviously bands, but just the songs were just better.
Yes,
And we used to talk about that even as kids.
yes.
You know what I mean? So this that's happening right now, in a sense, for me, and I told you this before we started the show, I feel sort of like vindicated in a way that what we were saying at the time, and we were young at the time, so we're listening to young whatever the radio is playing. At the same time, we're listening to this old classic music. Whatever that was to me better.
Yes.
Whatever that stuff was better. And it wasn't. And now that we're kind of like older, we're not like two old guys just being like, oh, this new music is not. It's not that.
No,
The
no.
people have spoken.
Yes, yes.
It is. What do you got to say
Well,
about that?
it was a different thing. I mean, the music industry was just different back then also, right? I mean,
Right.
just in general. I mean, creativity was at its highest. I mean, think about the creativity between the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Just those 3 decades alone, the creativity was off
You
the
could
chart.
start literally from 54,
Right, right.
like Elvis, to like just say 77,
Yes.
78, 79.
Yes, now music has always gone through trends, right? There's
Right.
always been trends, right? You got the rock and roll trend, and you got the British invasion, and you've got, you can go through the 70s, the disco
You got
era,
the
the
punk
80s, and punk
punk
and all.
rock and
Yeah, I mean, there
hair
was always
bands.
trends, but even in those trends, there was still a massive creativity in those trends.
Tremendous.
And the songwriting was amazing. The chord structures, there was a lot of amazing complex things, and you can appreciate. But I think for us, for me in particular, coming up as a young musician at that time, it was the musicianship of
Right.
those things that really caught me, because obviously I'm developing. I wanted to learn like my heroes, the John Bonhams of the world and the Neil Pearts and all these drummers and these great. I wanted to learn what they were doing, and I want to figure those out. And that musicianship just attracted me. So it was not only the music, but it was just the musicians and how good they were.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a level of musicianship that I think. Well, here's the thing. I'm on Instagram a lot, and whenever I'm scrolling through Instagram, there are guitar players now. And a lot of them are kids.
Yes.
Their technical abilities are incredible.
Right.
But here's the difference from what I've observed, and I think a lot of the trends that we're getting right now are from trends from TikTok,
Mhm.
Instagram, some YouTube guys. I think that what's happening is that a lot of the technique things that we were amazed with back in the day are becoming sort of novelty acts in a
Right.
way.
Mhm.
Like the tapping. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean Van Halen started that. Billy Sheehan did it on bass. And there were, different guys doing it, in different variations. I think, Eddie Van Halen kind of made it an amazing thing, right?
Yes. Yes.
He was an amazing guitar player, but he was also a good songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that's lacking today, is like there's a lot of technical abilities, but can put out another eruption? You know what I mean? I mean, that's the key.
Yeah.
Can they put out something like that? And that to me is what's happening right now, and why these old songs. You look at bands like the Eagles. You look at bands like the Rolling Stones. Um, Paul Simon. Simon and Garfunkel. These are 60s
Mm-hmm.
things. The Beatles, of course, you always have to throw in there, right?
Right.
These are 60s and 70s bands, right? And today they're getting as much airplay. They're getting most of the airplay.
Right. Right.
Why? Because it was just good. And you
Yes.
have to also understand that a lot of, and this was we saw a video with Rick Beato. If you guys don't follow Rick Beato, you got to follow Rick Beato. He's the man on education. He's the man on music theory. He does wonderful things there. You got to also follow Tim Pierce. We talk all about all the guys. But anyway, Rick Beato had a great video on this same subject. And what he was talking about was about the A&R guys.
Yes.
In the
Yes.
old days,
Mm-hmm.
right, some dude or some chick would go out and would listen to a CD or cassettes or whatever, and then go out and see the band, listen to them, understand that they're not polished.
Right.
You have to go in knowing that these guys are just doing this thing. They're not polished, right? You go out, you meet with them, and you say, okay, you guys are really talented. Let me help you guys. You sign them to a contract, right? You bring them in, you record them, you put them out, and you mold them. You work with them, you develop them, and there's some bands like people will look at Nirvana. Well, they were kind of raw and everything like that. Come on. Listen, when they met Nirvana, they knew there was something special going on in Seattle. There was Nirvana, there was Pearl Jam, there was Soundgarden, there was Mother Love Bone, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the first ones.
Right.
All these bands were, to me, in my opinion, equally as talented.
Mm-hmm.
No one was, right? Nirvana just happened to be the one.
Right.
It could have been, in my opinion, it could have been anybody. It could have been Pearl Jam. It could have been any one of those bands. Could have been the one that actually elevated. Now, granted, um, Nirvana had a certain rawness to them that we really missed,
Mm-hmm.
coming from the '80s, where everything was glamorous and makeup and and all this stuff
Right.
was a little bit over. It went a little overboard.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to listen to good music, right?
Yeah.
And not that those bands were not good; they were good, but there was this whole other glamour thing attached to it. Here comes these three guys that are just raw. They're rough, you know what I mean? But they were still managed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure.
Somebody managed them. Somebody would put them in the studio and recorded them. Somebody
Right.
saw that there was something there,
Mm-hmm.
and then they worked them and they gave them a platform. We don't have that anymore.
No, that art is gone, unfortunately. And here's the thing, also, um, that piece is gone. You with all the platforms that there are now, you have the TikToks and the Instagrams and all these things now. Like you said, you're seeing artists on these platforms that you wouldn't otherwise see if these platforms weren't around, right? So
Correct.
you were back in those days, we didn't have those platforms. You listen to whatever was on the radio at that time, right?
Right.
And that's the radio dictated where the trend was going. Okay.
Correct.
Now the trend is on all. Who listens to radio today? Nobody listens to radio today, right?
Right.
It's on Spotify, it's on Google or whatever it is, and now it's on TikTok. So with these platforms, these young people now can go on, get an audience, okay, and play guitar or play with their band, can go on there on YouTube and have thousands and thousands of followers just on that platform. How
Right.
many bands are just doing that?
Right.
And they're just getting an audience on a platform like YouTube, for example.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing overall,
Right.
that there's more music being produced and getting out there. The problem lies in the quality Here's a major issue, and I think Rick Beato touched upon this, but I want to kind of go further into it. Songs were more memorable.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if you go and you listen to the top 10 right now on Spotify in whatever genre you choose, I guarantee you that in a year you won't know those songs. Even
Correct.
if that song won Song of the Year
Right.
and won a Grammy, you know what
Right.
I mean? I mean, there's some songs that won Grammys that I was like, wow, like
Right.
songs with like, not that I'm a prude, but some foul language in
Right. Right.
songs that I was just like, is that really the song of the year?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
song of the year? You
Yeah.
mean out of the thousands and thousands, if not millions of songs that were produced in one year, that's the song of that you picked for the year? And I find it hard to believe there's something else at play there, in my opinion. But that's another story. Um, the thing about it is that when you listen to a band like the Eagles and they're doing their greatest hits, you're just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Every song is really well done. You listen to Billy Joel, every song is crafted. There's
Yes.
a purpose. There's a story being told that's spiritual and emotional, and they're connecting with an audience.
Hmm.
And this is what's happening. These kids today that are listening to these songs, and it's clearly that's what's happening, right? There's 70% of what's happening right now is old music,
Right.
right? Why? Because their parents listened to this music and it was good and it
Correct.
stuck with them. They listen to the new stuff. And you notice we're not really naming any of the current, because I don't want to disrespect any of the
Hmm.
current guys that are out there doing it.
Hmm.
My whole point is that the music that there are amazing musicians out there writing great songs, but you have to find them. You have to go look for them.
Yes. Exactly.
And radio, unfortunately, and record companies right now, which I'm going to quote an article actually. Well, first I want to show the actual consumption of music, which is, I believe, is this one right here. So this is the U.S. catalog versus current consumption of music. So catalog share is at 19.3 volume. Catalog total, current share. Um, so if you look at these numbers from just the last year, over 18 months, you can see what's the catalog, which is overall all the music, versus current consumption. So nobody currently, 3.7% is they're being consumed of current stuff.
Right.
Current music is that's what's actually being um, consumed. And there's another section here where he says, again, this is Ted from the Atlantic, and if I will post this article um, in the description below on the YouTube channel if you're on YouTube watching this. He says the 200 most popular new um, tracks now regularly account for less than 5% of total streams. Listen to that again. The 200 most popular new tracks that are now regularly playing on it accounts for less than 5% of total streams. Okay, that rate
Unbelievable.
was twice as high just 3 years ago. So, what does this say? It says that new music is not good enough to stay relevant.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and it's not me saying this as an old guy going like, you just don't understand the new music. No, this is the number. This is what this has been going on for what 80 years that we've been counting. Maybe not 80, what 60s, the Beatles, the 50s, yeah, 54, whatever that is till
Hmm.
now.
Hmm.
You know, that's how long that music has been actually accounted for, and seeing how much sells and all that. That this is a statistic. This is something that you can actually go back and quantify. It's not just me spitting out hey, our new music from today, these damn whippersnappers, and they're, it has nothing to do with that. This is actually legitimately a problem,
Yes.
and I'm really concerned about what are our kids listening to. They're not gonna grow up and be like, yo, remember that song? It was song of the year and she was talking about her thing.
No, you're right. You're right, and and you're absolutely right. It is up to the parents, really, to kind of show these kids, like, for, and I could only cite
True.
my own kid, right? For example, she's 15 years old. Now, if you look at her playlist on Spotify, right, it's a mixture, right? She's got the songs of today. She's got some of the stuff that's around today, and she likes the hip hop stuff too that's around, which is fine. I understand, but she's got Elton John, she's got Billy Joel, she's got Led Zeppelin, she has ACDC, and she's got the Beatles. Okay, so and the reason for that is, and the funny thing is, we've had conversations about it. Her and I just talk about music sometimes, because she's also, she's into music, and she plays some guitar and stuff. And she tells me, she says, Dad, when you show me your music from the 1980s and the 70s and all, she goes, that music was so much better than what's out. She knows it. She knows
Yeah.
that music was better.
Yeah. And I think a
and
lot of people know, and I'm going to talk about a story here
yeah,
in a
she
second
even,
about it.
and matter of fact, sometimes in the car, because my wife will put on the local radio station in the car, but the one that has more of the adult contemporary stuff from back then.
Right.
So my daughter will hear a Billy Joel song, and she's actually come to me. She goes, Dad, there was a song by Billy Joel, and she'll start saying the words, and I'm like, oh, I know that tune. That's this tune. She says, yeah. She goes, yeah, I like that tune. So she'll go and she'll put that on her Spotify list.
There you go.
But she hears and she recognizes when a tune resonates with her.
Sure.
So she's got that. So and I do introduce her to the background of these artists. I will sit there and watch YouTube videos of Billy Joel and Elton John and all that, because I want her to know these are the things that are relevant in music, because these are the people that inspired the musicians of today. Correct. So she's got to understand where it came from. So it's very important.
It is. And I think there's also there's a culture making music that's not necessarily influenced by that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a subculture possibly that sits in a room and looks at statistics on what actually is selling, or what kind of beat sells, what kind of a rhythm, what chord progression.
Yeah, the analytics.
The analytics, and the 4-chord songs, and then draft, put together a pie of a song, and then that's what they roll out onto the conveyor belt. And there's that element of it too. If you go deep, I'm in Nashville, right? So if you go deep and you go to some of the singer-songwriters that are here, that I personally have heard, they're writing tremendous songs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, songs that you listen to and you're like, oh my God, this is like such an amazing song. A friend of ours that we had on the show, John Statham, has a new album coming out soon. He has some songs on there and you're like, holy cow, just amazing stories told in like 3.5 minutes. Right. They take you away. That's what a song is supposed to do. Yeah. It's a mini movie, it's a mini movie for the imagination with rhythm, and so I wanted to just talk a little bit about this section of this article where he's telling a phenomenon. This is, again, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm just going to show it on the screen. So that's his name, and the article is from The Atlantic, that we're going from right here. A great article, and you should follow him for sure. But actually, I'll just leave it on there for now. So he's telling a phenomenon. He's telling a story that he walked into a retail store, and one of the young people that was working in the cash register was singing "Message in a Bottle" by Sting. Right. The song was a hit back in 1979, right? A while back. And, and then he had an earlier experience where he was at a local diner, and the whole staff, which was under 30 years old, was singing songs that were more than 40 years old, these songs. And he asked the server, he's like, why are you playing this old music? And she just looked kind of surprised, and she said, oh, I like these songs, so they're good songs.
Yeah.
Right? And it's another reason why, and I was thinking about this also, there's the Eagles, right? When they had that big famous run in the 70s, right? Then they broke up like shortly after that, right? And then they didn't get back together till like the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. But when they were there, classic radio started.
Right.
during that era, during
Mhm.
78, 79. I don't know the exact year, but it was during that time that suddenly like the classic radio stations started coming up. So
Mhm.
what did they start playing? They start playing the
The
Eagles.
Eagles.
So who becomes the biggest seller of all time? The Eagles albums and
Right.
their songs. Why? They're good freaking songs.
Yeah.
They're just good songs. You know what I mean? And they're songs that were really well thought out, well written, chord structures. The players were great. Everything about it was just really top notch. And they came from a working. They were in LA, in Los Angeles, that whole Laurel Canyon section where everybody lived in that whole area. And they wrote songs. Jackson Brown used to live above, or below, actually, above or below, Glenn Fry. So Glenn Fry would be laying down in his bed, and he would hear the piano downstairs, and then he would hear the tea kettle go on,
Right.
and it would stop, and he would hear tea kettle, and then you hear the piano again going. And he thought of to himself, he's like, oh, so that's how you write a song.
Look at that.
You just keep working at it. He
Right.
wrote the same part over and over. He kept hearing the same part over and over, and he was sick of it. But then he realized that's how you do it. Now, none of them were famous. He's literally living above Jackson Brown.
Right.
You know, and who was you and the reason I'm talking about this is because these stories of this era were special.
Right.
This time of this time of what was happening back then was special. There were things happening that nobody else was doing. They were also inspired by things that were happening in the world, and they were putting stuff to paper in in a beautiful way. I mean, Glenn Fry and the drummer
Don
Don
Henley.
Henley. Don Henley were the musicians for Linda Ronstadt.
Linda Ronstadt. Yeah.
That's what they did, and they
Yeah.
said, we'd like to leave, and Linda said, gave them their blessing,
Yeah.
and even sang on some of their stuff, and the rest is history. But that's what was happening. It was special, and it was captured on vinyl for us. You know what I mean? And today, it's just missing the special element.
Agreed. I do think back then, 70s, 80s, specifically, like even 60s, 70s, 80s, the bar was a lot higher. Okay. And I think that, especially when you look at from the 50s, I think actually, or actually even from the Beatles set the bar at a certain level. Okay.
Right. Well,
And,
Elvis was 54.
Even Elvis, really.
And yeah, but there were guys there as well,
Right, but the only thing about Elvis, I mean, obviously
he
Elvis
didn't
is
write
Elvis.
his songs.
Right, he didn't write his songs.
Right.
Elvis was, I mean,
An
he was
amazing performer.
amazing, a performer, but he was a performer. He was an
Right.
entertainer. And
Right.
that's what he was, right?
Right.
The Beatles were actually sat down and did this music, and that's what makes them like out, kind of outliers in that whole thing. Now,
Sure.
and I'm saying, and as far as the musicianship for me,
Beach
they
Boys
said,
also, you gotta mention
right,
Beach
exactly.
Boys.
They set the bar at a certain level. Now, every band from that point on is trying to live up to that
Right.
level. Okay. So, and there was so much
It was
competition.
competition. It was a healthy thing.
Exactly. The Led Zeppelins, the Who's, the all the Eagles, all these great bands were trying to compete in this
Right.
musical
There was
creativity.
yeah.
So in order to compete and in order to remain relevant, you had to up your game. You had to write amazing material. You had to come up with these
focus and think.
unbelievable chord structures.
Correct.
Okay. And you don't have that today.
No, there's no, because you can be on TikTok and have 1 million followers,
right?
And you did most of it from your living room. Again, it's not knocking that. It's just it is what it is, and
Yeah.
but you can't compare it to, and the quick story about Eric Clapton gets a phone call from Pete Townsend. He says there's this guitar player that's in town that everybody keeps talking about called Jimi Hendrix. He's playing at this place down here. You want to come check him out? Because they were both pretty well known already in their you know, with the Who and Cream and stuff. And Eric Clapton had been already in the Yardbirds, and he had already been in the in Blues Breakers, and then
Right.
Yardbirds, and then so he'd already had a career, you know.
Mhm.
But they just everybody's talking about this guy. They went down there and they both sat there with their mouths wide open.
Mhm.
They're like, "Holy crap, we're in trouble. We gotta up our game."
Right.
You know, and we have
Exactly.
to. They didn't get mad at Hendrix.
No,
They
that's
wanted to be
inspiring.
friends with
Right,
Hendrix.
right,
They were
right,
blown away by Hendrix. You
right.
know what I mean? Just the way Hendrix was blown away by them. You know, Hendrix was blown away by Bob Dylan. You
Right.
know, not his playing, but his songs. You know,
Mhm.
the way he wrote songs. So it's a whole era that I think started. And this is going to be a little controversial, but that's what we do here. We push buttons. But I
Canceled.
think it's yeah. I think it's a whole thing that started with American Idol, the downfall, and maybe it started a little bit earlier than that, but in my opinion, the downfall, and I don't even know what year American Idol started, to be honest with you, um, because people would say, well, music was, you know, iPhone or the iTunes and stuff, and digital stuff, and you know, Napster and all that stuff that started was the first thing, right? Which was a big blow to the music industry,
Mhm.
the music industry,
Right.
right? I'm talking about the artist's communication of their art, of their music, of their song.
Mhm.
American Idol came out and it made it, first of all, they made fun of people that did not have talent,
Right.
that could not sing, which is not nice because who the hell are they? What if somebody develops to be a talent? I look at American Idol as a joke, and it's not to say that the talent that's on there is not talented. They are talented. I think Kelly Clarkson is amazing talent,
Carrie Underwood.
incredible talent. I think Clay Aiken was great. I think the guy that was with Clay Aiken, he won actually. I can't remember his name. I remember
Yeah,
Clay.
yeah. There was Ruben, and then
Ruben,
there was Carrie Underwood.
Carrie Underwood, incredible singers, incredible talent. The overall thing is, to me, a horrible experiment in what superstardom or American Idol are. They idols? They're not idols. You're not an idol because you won a contest. You know what I mean? You're an
Right.
idol when you lived 25 to 30 years in front of an audience, pouring your heart and soul, you
Mhm.
know, and being out there and just giving it everything. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
what makes you an idol. You're not an American Idol because three judges said that you are and they awarded you this money and then you signed your life away to them
Right.
and now you have to record there. That's not a thing. So I have a real huge issue with that,
Mhm.
and I've always had it. And it's not again the artists. I don't blame them. It's instant stardom. You can sing.
Right.
If you're a really good singer and you go out there and you win, holy crap, boom, you're a star. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not all of them, because it's been over 20 something years, and
Mhm.
I can't name 20 people,
Right.
20 winners,
Right.
right? But it does actually produce good, talented people, right? My biggest issue with it is making fun of people who actually maybe don't have tremendous amount of talent, you know, but can sing. Maybe they're not the best singer.
Mhm.
And I look back. Let's say you American Idol and
And what if
Bob
Bob
Dylan.
Dylan comes
I was
in
gonna say
and
Bob Dylan walks out with a
he
guitar.
would
He'll
never
never
make it.
make it.
Nope.
Bruce Springsteen, will he make it? He'll never make it.
No. No.
Legends,
No.
legends, right?
This
And those are
D
idols.
Donald
You know,
Fagen from Steely Dan would never
would
make
not
it.
make it. Would not make it. So that to me is a major issue. Thank you, Gloria. I appreciate it. Gloria
Oh, thank you.
Walton.
Thank you. John Henry, you are excellent.
Thank you.
Must be the
Appreciate it.
hat.
Yeah.
But no, no,
But
and
yeah,
you're
that's a major concern for me, and I think that it made it seem like that it was okay to go on somewhere and have someone else do it for you,
right. It made it a joke. You're right. It did make it a joke. Because if you look at how
and
many
not the
people.
talent,
No, they
the
there was they
contest, the
exactly.
idea that there's
The
an
contest
American Idol.
the contest as a whole, it made it
Yeah,
as a
it's
joke, and
it's
they would
just.
now again, like you said, the Carrie Underwoods of the world and the Kelly Clarksons of the world, they're talented,
And
they
who
came
says
out
they
and they
wouldn't
did
have
well.
made it if they didn't have that?
But
You know,
how many American Idols won and are still out there?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, all very talented. If they won that contest, they can sing.
Right.
right? It's a
Exactly.
singing competition.
Yeah.
That's what they should have called it,
Right.
right? It's a singing competition.
Mhm.
America's Great Singer.
Right.
That would have been a thing. But to try to make an idol from that, it's I always have it anyway. But in my opinion, I think it started during that whole run. Where if you couldn't sing, somebody was going to make fun of you,
Yeah.
just the way they made fun of those people on that show.
Mhm.
And what does that show do? The first episodes are only
But
the
just
jokes,
jokes. Yeah, you
the
watch it
jokes
to
of
laugh.
who
That's
they're laughing at, who
yeah,
they're making fun of, who they're
yeah,
actually mocking.
yeah,
That's disgusting. That's
yeah.
your premise, is to just knock the human spirit of someone who may be delusional in their idea. Maybe they don't have the vocal range that they need to make it,
Right.
but they have a desire. They also have a drive. They
Mhm.
also have the balls to get up there and to
Sure.
stand in front of these guys and have cameras on them and to try to do it. And
Mhm.
then and then their lives get destroyed,
Right.
and they leave there. Who knows what happens to them after that, because nobody keeps up with them.
Mhm.
And we're talking about thousands of people through
Yeah.
over 20 years of a show.
Right.
I can't. And then you get the band, you get online, and then you don't even make that cut. How
Right.
many people didn't even make the cut to get into the thing, whose dreams were shattered?
Mhm.
And I hope to God, if anybody watches this in the future, and if anybody's watching this, please, please, please don't let anyone put their own value on what you have to offer. It's not their decision. It's your decision. You decide. You maybe, if your vocals aren't strong enough, you get some lessons. Learn to sing in your range. That's another thing that happens on that show. These people come on, they don't know, like, what's the song, Star Spangled Banner, right? Very
Mhm.
hard song to
Yeah.
sing, right?
Mhm.
Oh, say, if you don't start it like, oh, say,
You
can,
start it in
if
the
you,
right
if,
key, you're
if
done.
you started, oh, say, can, you're
Yep.
dead.
You're done.
You're not gonna
Yep.
make it unless you're some incredible singer, right?
Right.
um so a lot of singers are not trained. So they go on that show because they can sing. They can sing partly as good as you and I can. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
we've sang, sing song in the band, right?
Right.
But does that mean we're going to win a competition? No. But can we probably, and we have, I've written songs, right? I've written songs that Holland has sang, and I'm in my range. I have to sing him the song. I have to sing it in a way to communicate it to him, right?
Mhm.
So it's not. I just find that it began, this whole thing that we're talking about now, about the old music killing, because the old music was people like that were attainable.
Yes.
Their talents were. Glenn Fry didn't have an amazing voice. Would Glenn Fry have gone up there with a guitar and sung "Take It Easy" and
Mhm.
blown everybody away? Take it easy.
I know,
Would he
right?
have done that? Probably not.
No.
Now Don Henley has an exceptional voice. He
Yeah.
would have gone up there and he would have probably won, done really well with his voice.
Right.
But that's where it falls, and that's where it fails, a show like that. And it's not just that show. You have to understand that American Idol is worldwide.
Mhm.
American Idol is in all different countries, destroying the possibilities of someone saying, I don't have a great voice, but I know I can sing as good as a Bob Dylan. I can communicate a thought. I can sing like I don't know, name a singer, that doesn't have the vocal range.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
with Janis Joplin got up there and she had a great voice, a strong voice, but she was mad. She
Right. Right.
right, come on, come on. I mean, Joe Cocker, who I love, Joe Cocker. Would Joe
Mhm.
Cocker have gone up there?
No. No.
Van Morrison, who I love, Van Morrison. I'm going off on this because I'm realizing how much of a damage that I think that it did, and how much of a damage it's actually what's currently happening right now with the music industry, and what's happening with these uh, platforms that suddenly give someone this tremendous fame and this validation. It's great because they feel like they actually are doing something. But who's taking this talent and putting it out there in a professional manner, so people could actually, not even a professional manner, that's the wrong word, but putting them out there so people could actually enjoy the music instead of enjoying it on this little box. I'm watching this. This is not. I want to see somebody live. You know what I
Right.
mean? I saw
Right.
Joe
Right.
Bonamassa live, and I, s- I still get goosebumps when I think about that. I was in the front row, and I was like, we've seen how many times have we seen Rush
Oh
together?
my God.
I mean,
Yeah.
what happens when
Yeah.
you see those three guys on stage
Hmm.
creating that amazing sound?
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's what I want to. That's what lights me up.
No, I agree. I agree.
End of rant.
No, it's something that I really didn't think about as far as the American Idol piece, but it does make sense what you're saying and what they've done as far as just again, I saw American Idol maybe the first couple of seasons, maybe
I
watch it
think
a
I
couple of
saw
times.
the first season, and
Yeah,
I saw the second one with wherever Clay Aiken was on,
right. I
and
think I saw
Ruben,
maybe the first two
and
or
that was
three,
it.
and then I was done. And then I was done because I said, okay, but you know,
I didn't even know what's her name,
Carrie Underwood.
Carrie Underwood. I didn't know Carrie Underwood was on that show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I,
yeah. Yeah.
I
It
I
would
just
no.
thought she was a great
It was
singer
funny.
that came out.
I make it as a joke because I actually told my wife when we were watching it at the time, I predicted that she was going to win.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I when she and it, I mean this is all joke. You can actually ask her when she came up just to speak in front of the first time in front of the three judges.
Wow.
I said, "That's your American Idol right there." And sure enough,
Wow.
she went all the way. Yeah,
Wow.
because she had it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She
You could see
had
it.
you could
Even when
see
Kelly
that she had
Clarkson came up,
it.
she
Yes.
had the humility.
Right.
She had ridiculous talent,
Yes.
but she had a great attitude and great personality. Because I think being a I don't want to say celebrity, but being a person in entertainment, being
Mhm.
someone that actually can influence,
Mhm.
is not about just the talent.
Right.
It's about your ability to communicate when you're not performing.
Mhm.
The ability to motivate someone
Right.
and to influence others just with your beingness
Mhm.
rather than just with your vocal range or your talents, whatever they are. And it takes a lot more. And when you see these guys, when I saw Clay Aiken for the first time, he had this weird haircut, his ears were sticking out.
Mhm.
And he started singing, and I was like, damn, that guy could sing. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
he could really sing. And I did get a moment of like, oh, he seems to be like the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course Ruben too. Ruben was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
he was very good. Another thing that's, just thinking about it, another thing, and I think the article might have mentioned it, that's making that old music relevant again is the fact that these catalogs are being sold,
Right,
right? The fact that they're buying up their music. If you look at every commercial, how many old songs do you hear now in all these commercials? Because jingle writing is done.
right,
People don't write original jingles anymore. No, what do? They stick an old song in that,
right.
and it may either be the actual song, or what they do is they take the
Or
song and they add
they add
their
like
own words to
their
it,
own words. Yeah.
right? Which is crazy, but
Ugh,
and
God,
it's another way that my daughter hears these songs, because
really?
she'll
Yeah,
see a
that's
commercial,
true.
and and young kids are being exposed by some of these commercials, the one who do watch commercials actually,
Yeah.
um and they're being exposed to, so in some way it is a good thing that they're exposing these young kids to some of this music, at least through those songs or through
Yeah,
those commercials, in a weird way, right?
it is. And I mean, Paul Williams had a commercial out, and it was the Carpenters, the brother, Karen Carpenter's brother. I think
Mhm.
is Robert. I don't know.
I think
Richard.
Richard
Richard. I
Carpenter,
think
Richard
Richard
Carpenter.
Carpenter. Richard heard it on the commercial and was like, "This melody sounds great." And he reached out and had a number one hit
There you
with
go.
Karen Carpenter singing a Paul Williams song that was meant for a commercial. It
Right.
was a commercial. But the songs and the recording rights that are being sold are not by just anyone. You know what I mean? These
Mhm.
are I'll give you a list. There's a list here of song and recording rights sold since 2019. Okay, just since 2019. Bob Dylan, Whitney Houston, The Beach Boys, Dolly Parton, Neil Young, Shakira, Bad Company, David Coverdale, Bruce Springsteen, David Crosby, Stevie Nicks, David Bowie, Barry Manilow, ZZ Top, Lindsey Buckingham, America, Paul Simon, Tina Turner, Ray Charles, John Legend, James Brown, Taylor Swift, Motley Crue,
Look
Fleetwood Mac.
at that.
I mean, and that's just a short list, right? I
Jeez.
mean, they've all sold their catalog, and it's an investment because you think about somebody like Paul Williams, or somebody like Paul Simon, Bruce Springsteen's catalog. I mean, how much is that worth?
No.
You know, like $1 billion
Billion
of
dollars.
later content. Yeah, I mean, it will create $1 billion worth of
Of course.
content.
Of
I don't know
course.
what they're going to do with it, but they're done with it. They created it. They're just going to give it to,
Yeah.
give it off to the world. I think the Beatles are probably going to hold on a little bit longer. I know that Paul lost his publishing for a long time, and Michael Jackson bought them for a
Right.
while, and then
Yep.
he got to buy him back. So now he owns all his music. He's very particular about that, and so Don Henley is very particular about that too, probably to a fault.
Yeah.
But I think that they understand the protection that they want to have over their songs,
Right.
which I agree.
Hmm.
Because I don't know, we've written songs, and obviously we've had a couple of songs play on the radio, like in
Hmm.
local radio station. It's always nice, but if somebody takes one of her songs and puts it in a commercial for, like, I don't know, a car commercial or something. I mean, I wouldn't mind maybe a car commercial, but if it's something like
Pharmaceutical.
Vioxx 2,
Yeah, exactly.
the new Vioxx, we promise you won't die this time. I just don't know. And then they sing our song, but I'm thinking.
But and that's what you got to think about, right? Because a lot of these songs are used for those things.
I know
And then you have to think about that artist has to wrestle with that thing. Was, okay, where are they going to use my music? What is it
and
going to be?
if he has no say in it, he has no
Right.
say in it.
Exactly.
But the music industry is in trouble.
It
That,
is. It
that
is.
that's the key thing, and it's very clear. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just going to say, addressed another issue that was mentioned briefly in the article, the Grammys.
I was just gonna talk about that. That's
Okay,
exactly where I was
the
going on.
Grammys right now. So the Grammys went from, I think it was 19 million
I have it
then
right
to eight. What was it, 18 million
I
down
have it
to,
right on the screen now.
okay, there you go. 19 million, 18
So
million
there's
last
the
3 years.
audience. 40 million viewers in 2012. That's 10 years ago, folks. Down to 8 million.
Here's something interesting when I was thinking about
Sinking
that.
every year.
Okay, think about this when you look at Spotify. So because Spotify now has, and now there's competition in Spotify because now you have podcasts,
Right.
right? It's not just music anymore.
And
Now,
video is
and
coming.
videos right now, you have a certain segment of the population that is going on Spotify to listen to just podcasts, because podcasts now have passed over 1 million on Spotify, and Spotify actually now is passing iTunes.
iTunes, right?
Right. Okay, so now think about this. Just look at Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan gets 11 million viewers per episode. That means he's got more viewers on one episode than the Grammys. Okay,
I didn't think about that. You're right.
so a guy sitting
The
in a
whole
studio having a 3-hour conversation with a guy has more viewers than a show that happens once a year.
That's
That is basically
millions of
what
dollars.
is basically the Super Bowl of music. Think about
Correct.
the preparation, the money,
The
all the
acts.
people, all the acts, all the vendors, everything that goes into the months and months of planning for this thing that gets 8 million viewers, and this guy can sit in a studio, talk for 3 hours, and get 11 million. Think about that. I mean, the music industry is in trouble just by that fact alone.
That's true. That's true. And one of the things about this graph that really amazes me is that, okay, you have 40 million viewers on 2012. The following year, you had 28. That's a huge
Huge drop
drop.
off. Yeah. Mhm.
Now, why didn't somebody jump in? What occurred during 2012? I mean, I'd be interested to go back and figure out what was happening in the news, what was happening in the world. I don't know what went on, but that is a dramatic drop. If a company, any company, had that much of a drop, the company is out of business.
Right.
If that's your stock, if your stock was at 40 and the following year it's at 28,
Right.
you're broke.
Yeah.
Your stock is basically broke right now, and you're in trouble. Nobody jumped in, and in the following year, it went up by only 2 fractions,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
then it went down. Then it went down again. It struggled up again. Then it went to 19, 19, 18, and now 8. Now I can understand the 8 in a way. I can understand it, but in another way, I don't get it at all. everyone was home
Hmm.
on 2020.
Right.
Everyone was home. Why wasn't the Grammys at 50 million,
Hmm.
60 million, highest ever, 100 million people? Because everyone was freaking home. And in the following year, again, we were basically home. It was less than double. It dropped double from what it was in 2020. I mean, that to me just is unbelievable. Who's running this thing? Like, why are they doing that? Like, and it goes to show you that one, wokeness does not pay.
No.
Woke, you go broke. That just the numbers show it all across the boards. Everywhere you go, you can go to check it out on networks. You can check it out on whatever it is. They do not make the money. People do not want to be preached to while they're being entertained. And you and
Exactly.
I have learned that,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. You're
We've
right.
learned
You're
that the
right.
hard way, but
Yeah.
we've learned that, right?
I think that's also why you're seeing more and more in these Grammy shows the pairing of the old artist with the new artist, right? I think they're trying to bring both sides. Um, is it working? It doesn't seem to be working,
It doesn't
but
seem
you're
at all.
seeing like, Elton John with, Dua Lipa or, whatever it is, or, you can name the artist, but they try, because I see it, I've seen it more and more in the last few years of two or three artists, the brand new artists and then the old artists doing something together.
Right.
But even that doesn't seem to be bringing in the viewers.
No. And this person, I'm sorry, I don't see your name. It just says Facebook user. Sometimes it doesn't show me the name, so I apologize. But he says the pandemic hurt Hollywood and the music industry. The pandemic thwarted the general public to take the issues that we face as a nation more seriously. I agree with that to a certain degree because I'm also a little bit amazed that the fact that things were as bad as they were, that they didn't say, let's band together and give them something to entertain them, to get their minds away from the fact that we have this pandemic going on and we're trying to deal with this situation. Let's deal with it with music, entertainment. Let's put out a really good show and let's motivate everyone that we're going to get through this together. The arts are going to bring people through this. That was the attitude that I would have taken.
Right.
I wouldn't have crashed it, as whoever runs the Grammys or the artists or the music industries or whatever. I would have gotten together and made phone calls. Listen, we got to figure out a way. We got $1 billion, right, in the bank. Let's figure out a way to motivate people, to try to get people above this situation, to work together. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
And
music is
bringing
bringing
politics
politics
into
into human.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Hey
Mark
Mark,
Leader.
what's up, buddy? How's it
Hey,
going?
Mark.
Thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean that's a killer in
Yes.
anything. I mean, even when you bring politics into politics, it kills it.
Yeah. But I think, and you're right, I think music should be the distraction. Music
Should be the uplifting.
should be the uplifting. But I know that for me, and this is just for me, if I'm in a place where I don't feel well, or maybe a little depressed or whatever the issue is going on, I can put on certain artists and my mood will completely be lifted up.
Agree.
So to me, that I would want to see that. I would
Yeah,
want to feel that because music is emotional,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's an
I mean,
emotional
I'm the
thing.
same way. I mean, I listen to music. I play my guitar. It pulls me out of things.
It does.
And I
Yeah,
think
me
it
too.
does that for everyone. That's
Yeah.
why music isn't everything.
Right.
You don't watch commercials without music in it. I don't care what you're watching. You know what I mean? You don't watch a film without music in it. There's music there. Music is really the most important thing in my view, because it's the one thing that goes directly to the spiritual being without having any kind of a opinion, a
Mhm.
visual thing, right?
Right.
If
Right.
you hear the letter, if you hear a chord and you have no sight, it's the same chord.
Right. Right.
It's the E chord, is the C chord, is the G chord. These chords are chords. They're put together. They're structured together in a way that stimulates us, and no matter what, it goes right through. It goes right into your ear and right into your body. There's nothing that you have to assume. A film you have to watch, and you have to understand the character development, and you have to understand the
Right.
storyline. And there's a lot of different things. A painting, there's my wife's painting that she made here. You have to look at it. You have to analyze the colors and appreciate it, which is all beautiful art. But music, whoosh,
Right.
and it's also something that you can't like say, hey, look at this painting. Nah, I don't want to.
Right.
Doesn't
Right.
matter. Somebody's
Right.
playing music, you're gonna listen to it. You're gonna hear it. You walk into an elevator, there's elevator music. Why? Because it relaxes people. It makes people feel good. The elevator is a place that you either going somewhere where you don't want to go if you're at work, or you go into an appointment or something, and it's just a distraction to kind of get you through the 30 seconds that you're in this elevator.
Absolutely. And that's again going back to those artists. The
Yes.
silent majority is awakened.
Yeah.
And going back to those artists
Oh
that
yeah.
we've talked about, they were able to create a mood through their music.
Right.
To me, the greatest artists and the ones that I love particularly created a certain mood, even with a song. They created a specific mood through the chords that they use, through the words, the lyrics that they use. So it puts you into that place, that
Yeah.
amazing
It's
place.
a
I mean,
relationship.
it is
You
absolutely
relate to it.
right.
The
Right.
fact that you relate to it is what makes you feel good,
Yes.
right? You hear a
Yes.
song, and maybe we don't relate to everything that's written, but we certainly relate to to the melodies.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Rush songs, right? Rush songs are very complex in their lyrics, but the
Hmm.
music and the lyrics together really mean something.
Yes.
They go well together. Then you listen to somebody like Bob Dylan. Well, that's all lyrics, right? That's
Yes.
all storytelling at the
Right. It's
highest
it's
level
like
that you can get
poetry.
to. It's poetry.
Yes.
Same thing with Bruce Springsteen and these type of writers, Crosby, Stills and Nash. David Crosby, who just put out an album last year, which I've been listening to nonstop. It's an amazing album with great songs.
Yes.
Actual songs that start and tell these great stories. He has a song on there called Secret Dancer, which is just unbelievable, and just some incredible, incredible songs. So this is where music is me. I think that there's an awakening happening, and I think this person said it,
Yeah.
silent majority awakening. There is hold on one second. What's happening over there? Do you hear that? Okay, sorry.
Sounds like somebody sweeping.
Yeah. There's an amazing that's when you're doing a show when you have kids in the background, it's difficult. And these days you can't beat them. They just don't allow. They really frown upon it. Not like when you and I were growing up, where it was actually encouraged.
The ratings would be high on that one.
The rate. Did you see last night's show? He beat his
He beat
5-year-old
his kid just like do it again.
right on
Do it
camera.
again.
Like finally, the silent majority is awakening. So, music is to me an important foundation to what we're currently experiencing on this planet right now.
Right.
It's something that I feel, and I don't want to get into conspiracy stuff, but I feel it's being suppressed almost intentionally, because why would you not have, when you're all about making money and you're all about producing content and putting music out, why wouldn't you invest everything you have into trying to make the Grammys the biggest show of the year, to inspire people,
Hmm.
to motivate people,
Right.
to tell people, you know what, things are going to be okay. Things are really rough right now. A lot of people have died. There's a lot of scary things going on in the media right now. Some media is telling the truth. Others have been caught lying. We don't know what's happening, right?
Right.
It's scary times right now. This music and artists are the ones that have to actually lift people and let us know things are going to be okay. We're going to get through this, and we're going to get through it. Why? Because of this. And here's this beautiful piece of music and this beautiful message that's going to inspire people. And that to me is really the gist of this whole article, is why these old songs are killing the new songs. The new songs are not inspiring people the way the old songs did. They just don't have it. Why? Because they're being produced like the way you produce a Doritos chip. You know, it's in a factory. It's ingredients thrown in there. It's fried. It's toasted, put in a bag, and shot out into a truck. That's not the way you produce music. You do it the way I mentioned earlier with Jackson Brown sitting at that piano with his tea, hours and hours for weeks and weeks, writing hits. That's
Right.
how you do it.
Yeah, when you have music that's produced that way, there's no overall investment in it. There's no
No,
investment to make it good.
no,
It's that's the sad part.
right.
Like you said, with the A&Rs and all the
Yeah.
stuff that used to happen in music that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say, we can go on.
Yeah.
We can talk a long time for this
Yeah.
on this subject, but one of the things that I wanted to, the last, in my opinion, the last person that came up that was like, holy cow, was founded and molded, an A&R, was Whitney Houston,
Mhm.
and Whitney Houston had a tragic end to her life. I know, but when she first came out, she was 16 when Clive Davis discovered her. Completely green. She had only sung in church, and he was like, he knew there was something special there.
Yep.
He just knew there was something there. And that's when the development comes in. I
Right.
mean, now there's Alicia Keys, which
Mhm.
I think is remarkable. I mean, so she came afterwards. You know, um, she came afterwards, and she's really relevant. There are a couple of artists that you can name that have been discovered, and you can go back and see their rawness.
Right.
That's the thing about it, right? You can go back and see Eric Clapton in the 60s looking all skinny and playing with the Yardbirds or whatever, and seeing him develop
Right.
into Derek and the Dominoes and his solo stuff. You could see Phil Collins with Genesis developing, developing. You know what I mean? And the record companies continued and stuck with them.
Yes.
They didn't just say your record sold less this one, so you're out. You know what I mean? And that's what's happening today. If you're the shit now, but you're not the shit next week, you're
You're
done. We're
done.
cutting you.
You're done. Yeah. All
That's
right.
not the way you do it, and that's not the way you save music. So
Right.
I'm hoping that I've even thought about myself doing it because I've managed artists in the past.
Right.
I've even thought of trying to figure out a way of me actually managing artists and trying to get them, developed in a way. You know what I mean, and really working with them. There's no variety in music like it used to be in the 70s and 80s. Oh man,
Yeah, agreed. I completely agree.
100%.
Agree. I mean, again, you have your, there are some great artists out there, the Bruno Mars of the world, the Lady Gagas of the world, who are completely talented,
Right.
and I think they would succeed in any genre
Right.
because
Yeah, Bruno Mars is incredible, incredibly
they
talented guy.
they
And but
they
again, go back.
right.
See him at 60 years
It's
old. He's on
right.
YouTube at 60 years old
Yeah.
doing Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
He was talented back then. Go
Mhm.
back and see Lady Gaga when she was just a
Yep.
kid. You can go back and I wanted to go back to just real quickly when we were talking about artists that like American Idol thing. If Madonna would have walked onto that,
Oh,
would
yeah.
Madonna have become a superstar?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
wouldn't have.
No. No.
Madonna was a superstar because Madonna knew she was a superstar.
Right.
She developed, she created herself. She just knew it. She didn't have the best voice. She didn't have the best dancing. She was beautiful. And she had the goods.
Yeah.
J-Lo, you can say the same thing. Would she go out there and win? Probably not. But here she is being the judge of this
Mhm.
competition. You know what I
Right.
mean? She's beautiful. She can dance really, really well. She didn't have the greatest vocals.
Right.
I mean, she just doesn't have the great
No,
vocals.
I agree.
But for what she's doing, she's a superstar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's a superstar. So that was just one thing I wanted to make. La, 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 la. Anyway, Mark, thank you so much for your input. I appreciate it, and everybody who's tuned in, appreciate y'all. We are going to wrap up this evening. I wanted to again thank Ted for his wonderfully written article. I'm gonna just flash his name because I can't pronounce that last name. I don't know.
The G is silent.
Yeah,
No,
maybe.
maybe here. Let's see if anybody can figure out. If you can figure out how to say that name, I'll give you win a prize.
Rick Beato actually says it on his
did
show.
it, right?
I'll
He
go
did
back
say
and I'll listen to it and I'll get it right. But anyway, Ted wrote a great article for The Atlantic
Right.
in the YouTube channel. I will put it there on on the in the description below, and yeah, we'll do it. They related to a spirit that made people feel good. Exactly, that was
Yes,
exactly what they did.
absolutely.
Cool, cool. All right, Mark, thank you very much. And George, thank you very much as always. We'll be back next week. We have a guest next week. We're back into talking about Star Trek.
Well, we got a
And yeah, we're
yeah,
gonna have a great.
great
I'm gonna actually make
great
all
hack.
the flyers and everything, and I'll have everything out next week again. We'll be live here at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it is live, so you can always interact with us. And we'll, yep, happy to be here. Godspeed. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Yes,
And we'll
sir.
see you all again next week. Take care, everybody. And as always, peace.